In this video, I'm going to go over how to make sure that the server you're using to install the BigFix and ILMT and DB2 servers is ready to go, that the necessary ports are open, and that the hardware requirements are met. So to help make this process a little bit easier, I've made two scripts that we'll look at, which basically will go through those requirements, at least the majority of them, and then the other script, yum script, will install the necessary packages that BigFix, DB2, and ILMT need. So let's take a look at these scripts. These are available on or through an AWS S3 bucket, and I'll have the links attached. But let's take a look at the prereqs first. So essentially, the first thing it checks is that you are the root user. That's required, and there's not really a way around that for the installs in general. And so the next requirement is if Red Hat is at least version 7. And after that, it will check ports. So the ports specifically that need to be open are 9081, 52311, port 80, and port 443. Additionally, if you're installing DB2, if it's not already installed somewhere, then you'll need to have an open port for that, typically port 50,000. And then after that, it will check to make sure that the server can ping. This is needed for relays. This doesn't actually check if it will work system-wide. Of course, this is just checking for the server, so you may need to do additional checks to make sure that that will work. And then it goes through the hardware requirements, which will vary depending on how many endpoints you're looking to connect, or in other words, how many clients will be reporting in to BigFix. So that's the gist of the script. Let me clear this. And we're going to need to add permissions to execute it. So we will do that. And we will run it. So it asks if it's version 7, and I have version 8.8. So I'll say yes, and we can see here that these ports are not allowed on the firewall. And that's expected because this is just a new test environment, and the default firewall is restricted. So I would need to allow those ports. But I'm going to keep going with this script here. So I'm going to say I have 50,010 servers. So then it tells me, okay, so based on this amount of servers, you would need probably 2, maybe 3. You would want one for BigFix and its database, and then the other for ILMT and DB2. If I were to do all of these on this device, it would need at least 230 gigabytes free of storage. And that's just because there's a lot of endpoints. So a lot of caching data that needs to happen. And then the databases, of course, grow. And I only have allocated 30 gigabytes because this is a test environment. So obviously, you would want to make sure that all of these checks are passed before you start the install. But let's go to the other script. We'll assume that those checks were passed, and we will take a look at this one. So this is essentially just a list of packages that need to be installed. It's really nothing crazy. If we were to install this on Windows, then these dependencies would be installed with the servers. But as this is Red Hat Linux, it does not. So we will add the same permissions as before. And we will run it. Oops, sorry. Go. So this will take a few minutes, depending on how recently Yum has been updated, for example. But once Once all of these packages are installed, you will be ready to go, and you can have some confidence that as you install BigFix, ILMT, and DB2, that at least the basic requirements are met. The most often, the error we see most often is really the firewall for the entire network that causes the most issues. So definitely want to make sure you have any necessary change requests that are submitted as early as possible so that it doesn't hamper you in the middle of an install process.